I wish that had been recorded. Todd, that was fantastic. Last week somebody asked this question, how do you know what to do? And I gave some answer, and later I told Stan, I didn't like my answer. That was amazing. That was just amazing. Yeah, chickens. It's even a great word, chicken, So, are there any questions? Okay. Who are the people around the Buddha? Okay. Well, we've got, let's see, Todd, you want to stand up and point? Maybe we need someone taller. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's start with the four people near the Buddha. No, the four people near the Buddha. Yeah, so there's, point to all four. And then on the other side, no.
Oh, sorry. 1, 2, 3.
No. The four bodhisattvas.
Okay.
The two on the right. I think I know which one.
Oh, okay, got it. 1, 2.
And then
1, 2. Okay.
yeah. So those are the main bodhisattvas, and I never can remember which one. Let's see. There's Manjushri, who's the bodhisattva of wisdom. There's in Korean, Sino-Korean, it's Munsusari. There's Samantabhadra, the bodhisattva of action, and that's Daeheng. Heng means action. And then there's Avalokiteshvara, Kuan Yin, Kwanseum Bosal, the bodhisattva of compassion, and then there's Ksitagarbha, Jijang Bosal, the bodhisattva of great vow. And I could talk much more about all of those bodhisattvas. There are, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of other bodhisattvas. Those are the four main ones. And there are ways you can distinguish them by what's in their headdresses, but I can never quite see what those headdresses are, so I don't know which one is which. And now could you point to the two people on the outside bottom? So we have that one, and then on the other side we have that one. And those people look pretty fierce. And they look pretty fierce because they're the Dharma guardians, they're asuras, and they are not happy people. They're not people, actually, but they're sort of the proper use of anger is what they represent. And they're very fierce warriors, and they're there to protect the Dharma. And then can you point in the upper right, the guy with the white beard? So that's not a Buddhist god at all, that's a mountain god, and that's very big in the Korean pantheon. So every major Korean temple will have a mountain god hall, a mountain god, little building dedicated to the mountain god. And that's this mix of shamanism and Buddhism. And then the person wearing the sort of headdress, no, to the right of that, I think that's another asura, but to the right, the smaller figure, yeah, that's Bodhidharma, come from India to bring Zen to China. And then for the rest of them, I'm not really sure who they are, but that's the little bit that I know. Thank you very much. In a temple painting, some of those people might be, sort of sponsors of the temple, people associated with it. Some of them have particular, Huineng might be in there, I'm not sure. So basically that's what we have. We have the four great bodhisattvas. We have, Bodhidharma, and we have sort of the asuras and then miscellaneous. Some temple paintings have women in them, but that's relatively rare. They're generally all male. However, if you look at the bodhisattvas, you can see that they're not exactly muscle men. They're kind of androgynous, but they all have these little mustaches, so they're guys. So that's what the temple painting is. And Carol, you have a question.
Well, no, a question, a kind of a question. That was a wonderful talk that Todd gave. I thought it was really
I
resonated.
wish we'd recorded it. It was great.
Wonderful. And it brought to mind something that I heard just recently, a few days ago, from Isho Fujita, who's a wonderful Soto Zen priest in Japan.
Uh-huh.
And I bring this especially because I know there's a linguist in your family or a person interested in languages in your family. But it really struck me. He talked about the nominative case as opposed to the dative case. Okay, so I studied Latin in college and I know a little bit of Latin. So
Can you tell the rest of us?
what's that dative? So a nominative case is where I'm the subject, like German has a dative case, Latin has a dative case.
Mhm.
Where I am the subject is the nominative case. I am doing such and such and such. But the dative case is more like an indirect object, like I gave the book to Mary. So the book would be the direct object in Latin, but the book to Mary would be the indirect object, the dative case. So more or less the sense of not like I'm doing this, but just to go along with what Todd said, but like this is all happening and I'm here and it's this, this is happening, just happening. So I really appreciated that idea, and I wonder if you had any comment about the grammatical cases.
I don't even know what a case is.
Oh, okay. So in German and Latin and some other language, probably a house is, house is not just a house. It's a housey or a houseos, housus, a housorum, a housus, depending on what its function is in the sentence.
It modifies the noun.
Yeah, a house is the subject of a sentence would be a
But it's
different
a modification of the noun. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so language is really strange. That's my comment. Language really distorts everything. We think that you have, here's language world and here's the world, and we think they're the same, but they're not. And we think this is the real world. So we think this house is exactly what we think it is, if that makes sense.
Right.
That's already distorted.
Yeah.
Because even our perceptions are already distorted. If you think of the process by which light bouncing off an object comes into our eye and goes through this tremendously complex process with our nerves, first they're non-nervous cells, then they're nervous, non-nerve cells, then they're nerve cells, then it goes up into the brain, and the brain has to organize it. And the brain has to say, this is a computer in front of me. And on that computer screen, Carol is exactly in the middle, which you happen to be right now, okay? And that process is so complex. And then we have this language layer on top of it. And it just really messes everything up, When I was 15, I wrote in my diary, I was clearly a very odd person. I wrote in my diary, the structure of language, dash, and when that is destroyed. So we think that the structure of language is how the world is constructed, and it's not. And practice allows us to cut through thinking and cut through language and cut through that stuff. And there's still all these tremendous layers, between us and what's really going on. I mean, there have to be. If you say the world is not what you think it is, then people think, oh, then there's a way I can find out. But no, it can't be. We're like chickens. Todd was talking about chickens, right? The chickens are just chickens. You put a book in front of a chicken, it doesn't know what to do with it, but it knows what to do with that high-protein snack. That's what Todd was talking about, right? The rooster finds the high-protein snack, and he does his little dance, and all the hens come running. They get to eat the high-protein snack, and then, Todd, whoever's raising the chickens, gets these eggs, right? Nobody has to tell them that. It's just all there. So, yeah. So my response is just cut through it. Just cut through it. Let this universe in and completely be part of this universe. Like when the rooster does his little rooster dance. There's no separation between this rooster and this universe. This universe is working through the rooster. It can't even do that because it's not separate from the rooster, but the image, the image, it's like everything is coming through. We're all just vessels of this universe. It's a nominative case, dative case. Yeah, it's fine. Humans like to complicate things. It helps because then the word order in a sentence doesn't matter. My husband being a translator of Latin and Greek, he says in Latin, you can put a word anywhere, you know what it is, because it has these cases and, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So yes, human beings are very complicated. So thank you for your question. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I had a thought about the chickens, but
Yeah, you had a thought about the chickens.
I kind of left it, so if that comes back. But I do want to ask, could you talk a little about the first great vow, sentient beings?
First great vow, yeah, that's, okay, so the first great vow, just to remind everybody, sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. So first of all, in the Chinese characters, so Sino-Korean is read off of Chinese characters. In the Chinese characters, it's the many beings, not sentient beings, many beings, not the, so it's beings, which means many beings, vow, and then this funny word, do, which means, which really means crossing, helping cross over to the other side, like someone in a, rowing a ferry across the river. So it's a better translation than save would be liberate. So vow, liberate. And there's no pronoun there, getting back to the technicalities of language. We translate it as we vow. Other groups translate it, in fact, most groups translate it as I vow, but it's actually just vow. So this vow is huge, And in some of our chants, we have chants that are like everybody together vow liberate, So everybody's vowing to liberate everybody, right? Okay? So this chant is very huge. And I remember when I started practicing, I would worry about this vow because it seemed impossible. I mean, we vow to save all sentient beings, which is not only not limited to whoever I happen to know and wherever I happen to live and whatever continent I'm on, it's not even limited to my planet, right? It's all sentient beings in the universe. And if you're in Mahayana cosmology, it's a multiverse. Not even just this universe. And I remember saying to Diane Houghton, who, I'd been practicing just for a couple of months, and Diane is now a teacher in the school, and she's Diane Eagles now. And she's a tiny, tiny woman, even shorter than I am. And I remember saying to her, how can we do this? This is impossible. How can we save all beings? And she stood up on tiptoes and patted me on the head and said, "It's okay. You'll understand." So that's the best way to look at it. We're never done. We're never done.
So in the practical sense, in the day-to-day life sense.
So in the day-to-day life sense.
How do you live that vow other than just saying it?
How do you live that vow other than just saying it? Not by thinking about it. Not by saying, ooh, I'm saving this person. Ooh, I'm liberating this person. Oh, I'm such a nice, kind, compassionate person, aren't I? Not that way. You know, when that rooster, I'll never let you forget this, it's such a great metaphor. When that rooster is dancing around that high protein grub, which, has he killed it? How come the grub doesn't get away from him?
They don't move very fast.
Oh, they don't move very fast, okay. See, what do I know? I grew up in New York City. So when the rooster is dancing around that slow-moving grub who doesn't realize it's about to become chicken food, you know, it's dancing around that slow-moving grub, it is not thinking, ooh, look how I'm helping my harem. You know, it's not thinking that at all. It's just dancing around that grub and making its little chicken sounds or rooster sounds, you know? So that's how we liberate each other, by 100% doing it, not separating from it, not analyzing it, not looking at ourselves and thinking we're so cool because look at what we're doing, not looking at the other person saying, oh, that poor person, I really need to help them. We are not separate. That's how you do it, okay? And you don't ever do it. Because then you're putting a name to it, and it's like killing a butterfly and pinning it on the wall and saying, look at that beautiful butterfly, and it's dead. So don't kill anything, okay? Thank you for your questions. Are there other questions? Yeah.
Are the concepts of altruism and selfishness illusions?
So the question is, are the concepts of altruism and selfishness delusions? All concepts are delusions. Okay? Just what are you doing? What are you doing right now? That's the only thing. And then you put a label on it. Oh, I'm being altruistic. Oh, I'm being selfish. Or if you're like some people, I'm being selfish. Yeah, you know. Right. But those are just labels. What are you actually doing? What are you actually doing? You know, sometimes when people do things that are really they should not have done, and if you say to them, what did you do? And they say, oh, you know, this reminded me of when I was a kid and, you know, my puppy ran into the road and got killed, and that's why, you know, I hit my kid, or something like that. They don't say, I hit my kid. Because we have all these things that we, you know, put around everything, that we can't see exactly what we did. Oh, I hit my kid, which is not a good thing to do, right? So instead of saying that, people make all these excuses. You know, this happened, or that happened, or this is what happened to me, or, you know, I wasn't paying attention, or, you know, whatever it is, but you can't say, I did this. It's really hard for people to say, I do this, when it's a negative thing. And even when it's a positive thing, people have a very hard time seeing what it is that they actually did. Oh, I made this person feel great, you know, but what did you actually do? People have a very hard time seeing what they actually did. So don't worry about altruism and don't worry about selfishness. Don't worry about these labels. Just what are you actually doing? And what is the effect of what you're doing? The actual effect, not what you think is going to be the effect, but the actual effect. And that's very, very difficult because we have these narratives all the time, and these narratives just distract us. Going back to that rooster with that grub, oh, I'm such a cool rooster, look at me. It's not doing that. It's just doing its little rooster dance, little rooster call. Yeah. Okay? Thank you. And we are way out of time because we started way late. So thank you, everybody.